Please give it up for Dr. Mohammed Mustafa.
Man, you know, I'm always nervous when I do these public speaking events. Usually I speak from the heart, but this time I actually wrote a speech. But, you know, I was sat there talking to Hawaii and I said to her, you know, there's so many people here. I'm nervous. I don't know what I'm going to say. You know, I'm not a public speaker. I'm just a doctor. But, you know, that's precisely it. This genocide is forcing us all to be something that we're not. So if I have to be a public speaker, if I have to be a politician, if I have to be a campaigner, then I'll be all of those things. So that one day, my children and my people can be free. That's why I'm doing this. Do you know, they asked me obviously to come here and talk about Gaza being the compass. What does it mean? And I thought I'd maybe, you know, try and do a Jordan Peterson thing. You know, what is the compass? What is compass? Do you know, so I thought maybe I'd do what the compass is. But you know, a compass, no matter who holds the compass, it always points in the same direction. It doesn't matter if you're Palestinian, if you're Jewish, if you're part of the LGBT, if you're Black Lives Matter, if you're the Native Americans, if you're the Aboriginals, if you're the Maoris, if you're the students on college campus, it all points to the same direction. And that's what this movement is. It doesn't matter which one of us carries this movement forward, whether you're Palestinian, whether you're Jewish, whether you're a student, the direction and the compass that is Gaza points towards one thing, and that thing is our freedom. Right, that was the off-script stuff. Now I might have to stick to the script. So look, I stand before you today with one truth. Gaza is the compass. Gaza is not just a place on the map. Gaza is the measure of our humanity. It is the litmus test that reveals who we are as individuals, as a nation, as a world. I'm a doctor, and I was trained to believe in one sacred principle, that healthcare is a human right. After the devastation of World War II, the world said, never again. The World Health Organization declared that every human being, everywhere, has the right to the highest attainable standard of health. No exceptions, no discrimination. But in Gaza, that promise is broken. Healthcare is not failing by accident. It is being sabotaged by design. Hospitals bombed, doctors killed, aid blocked. I will never forget that one night in the ER, after an airstrike, a mother came in carrying plastic bags. She handed them to me. Inside were the remains of her children, melted human flesh. She looked at me in the eyes as if to ask, "Doctor, is there anything that we can do? Is there anything left?" But there's nothing I could do. And that's the reality of Gaza. It is a mirror that is holding up to humanity. So I ask you this. Why is baby formula banned in Gaza? Why is feeding a child considered a threat? Why are incubators, ambulances, hospitals, the very lifeline of life, turned into targets of war? When did milk become a weapon? When did bread become contraband? When did saving a child's life become a crime? Gaza is the only place on earth where nourishing a baby is treated as an act of resistance. The only place where medicine itself is put on trial. The only place where life itself is seen as a danger. And the world accepts this in Gaza, and it tells every oppressor, you may criminalize survival itself, and no one will stop you. But let us be clear, it is not only the bombs that kill Gaza or the children, it is hunger, Starvation is being used as a weapon of war. Gaza has now entered stage 5 famine. That is the most catastrophic level. That doesn't just mean that the children are dying of hunger in their parents' arms. It means that the damage is already irreversible. Malnutrition has reached so deep in these children in Gaza that they are changed at the genetic level. Changes that will be passed on to generations not yet born. This is not just destruction of people's present, it is theft of their future. This is why Gaza is the compass, because it does more than just measure politics. It measures the human soul. Gaza is the line between the truth and the falsehood, between justice and oppression, between humanity and barbarity. Gaza is the mirror in which the world sees itself. If you look at Gaza and feel nothing, it reveals who you are. If you can justify Gaza's suffering, it reveals what you have become. Gaza strips away the illusions, it unmasks nations, it tests faiths. Allah tells us in the Quran, and we will surely test you with something of fear and hunger and a loss of wealth and lives and fruits, but give glad tidings to those who are patient. Gaza is that test. It forces us to choose not with words, but with deeds. And it asks each of us, will you stand where the oppressed stand, or will you turn your back and walk away? I was in Gaza when 4 hostages, Israeli hostages, were rescued and the world celebrated. Yet on that very same day, more than 1,400 Palestinians were killed and injured, and the world looked away. I was there the night that the ceasefire was shattered, when 200 children were killed in an hour. I have seen babies die in their parents' arms, not because the medicine didn't exist, but because it was deliberately kept from them. And yet, despite it all, I have also seen strength. I have seen dignity, the unbreakable spirit of a people who refuse to surrender their humanity, even when the world denies it. This is why Gaza is the compass, because it challenges everything that we claim to hold dear. And let me tell you this, there is no comfort in standing up for Gaza. There is only pain. In this dunya, you may lose your job, you may be imprisoned, you may be illegally boarded, you may lose your reputation, you'll be vilified, you'll get death threats. But think about what we call sacrifice. We fear losing a title, a paycheck, a platform, while the people in Gaza are losing their homes, their families, their children, and their very lives. We count the cost of speaking, yet they are paying the price of silence with their blood. Courage is knowing the cost. Courage is feeling the fear. And courage is still standing where humanity demands you to stand, because history is watching. Our children will ask us, where were you when Gaza was burning? And in that moment, no excuse will matter. Not fear, not silence, not neutrality. Gaza is the moral compass. The question is not whether it points true. The question is whether we have the courage to follow it, the conviction to act before it's too late. Gaza is the moral compass. Whew, I got through that speech. Hey, listen. That was probably the first ever speech I've given, and not just talked. But I want to tell you a little story about in Gaza. I remember when we had a mass casualty event and it was the middle of the night, and there were bodies everywhere, children coming in with limbs missing, mothers coming in with headless children. And I remember in the middle of the chaos of it all, a young girl, she was only about 9 years old. She was barefoot, she was scared, she was tired, she was bleeding. And she was holding on to her brother, her 2-year-old brother. Her house was bombed, her whole family was killed. And yet she went and she chose to dig through the rubble and take her brother and walk kilometers on end to try and find the hospital. She walked at night in the dark, barefoot, with glass and rubble cutting her feet. She walked with drones hovering down, shooting at people. She walked at night when buildings were exploding around her. And she chose to keep moving forward and keep walking forward to save her brother's life. This is Gaza. This is the people of Gaza. You see, for her, it didn't matter what was in front of her. It didn't matter the obstacles. It didn't matter that she was a child and that she was scared and that she was injured. What mattered to her was to save her brother's life. And she walked through hell to make it to that hospital. And I remember looking at that little girl, and I remember thinking to myself, if she has the courage to walk in this war zone to save her brother's life, what excuse do I have not to come out of Gaza, to travel the world, to tell her story? What excuse do we have when a child in Gaza can face enemy fire and drones, carry their own siblings? It doesn't matter the obstacle in front of us. It doesn't matter what they do to us, because they can't break the spirit of the people of Gaza. And if the people of Gaza refuse to give up, then we can't give up. If they refuse to be silent, then we refuse to be silent. And if they continue to fight, then we'll continue to fight. You know, and I'll finish on this because I know I've run out of time. You know, my dad always used to say when we were growing up, I used to say, you know, Dad, one day Palestine will be free, you know, when all the Muslims and all the Arabs come together and they all work out the differences and, you know, then we're stronger and united together. And he said to me, you know, that's not going to happen. He said, Palestine will be free at the hands of Palestinians. And, you know, I never understood what he meant by that. I always just thought, you know, we're just Palestinians, we're just refugees, we're scattered across the world. But you know what? If that little girl can face those F-35s by herself, if those journalists can choose to stay into Gaza and record knowing that they'll be killed, if those doctors can rush to injured knowing that they'll be bombed, and they still choose to do that every single day, and they refuse to surrender. Now I understand. Now I understand. When they kill all the senior doctors in Gaza, they didn't realize that a young junior doctor from outside of Gaza will come back eventually one day and rebuild that healthcare system in Gaza. No matter what they do, no matter what happens, we are here. We ain't going away. We won't stop. Free Palestine. Free Palestine.
بالدم نفديك يا فلسطين بالروح بالدم نفديك يا فلسطين. Thank you Dr. Muhammad. Thank you Dr. Muhammad for your words and for your work and for the stories from Gaza that you've brought to us today.